You know, I'm getting so sick and tired of getting in trouble with you people. Every time I tell you something, you just, you know, yeah. He's bad-mouthing the internet. He's bad-mouthing the movie. He's bad-mouthing Star Trek. Good God. For instance, a movie can't be a movie anymore. You used to go to a movie. You used to go to On the Waterfront. You go to the Magnificent Seven, you know, All About Eve, even Star Wars. Well, you went to a movie. You saw a movie. Now it can't be a movie. It's got to be a ride. It's got to be a book. It's got to be a game. It's got to, you know, if you like the movie, you'll love the coffee mug. The rides are ridiculous. Back to the Future ride, Star Wars ride, Indiana Jones ride. Everything is a damn ride. Everything has to be interactive. Oh, I love that word, interactive. Do you folks who sit in front of your computers really and truly think you're being interactive? No, what you're being is encrypted, insisted, codified, concretized. You're being walled up inside your own little homes, watching your little computers all day and all night. Computer sex? Oh, really? Give me a break. What an orgasm you must get off that one. Talk to me about interactive. I don't want to hear that word anymore. Interactive. It's empty-headed. It's imbecile. It's not interactive. It's imbecile-active.
As we promised last week, a feature all by himself, our fabulous commentator, Harlan Ellison. Harlan?
Pinky, tonight we're going to take over the world.
Hey, and he came bearing gifts this time. You didn't have to do that, by the way.
Well, for you, listen, you're my pal.
You're my pal, too. Hey, this was written, what, in the 66, 65?
No, 67? I don't know.
67? Let's look it up.
Let's look it up. It's not like we know what we're doing here.
66, 67.
Is that what it says? Yes.
Yeah. And you won a Hugo in 1967.
Won the Writers Guild Award. That's the important one.
Boom. Thank you very much for this. Well, this isn't new. Why don't you bring me something new?
No, it is new. This is the first time it's been in print.
But it's in stores now.
It is. Well, actually, it's coming in stores in trade. This is the limited edition. It's $75, and they're all gone.
I have one. Oh, we shouldn't block the game. No blocking, please.
I despise computer games. I think they are one of the great... They are second only to golf as being the greatest time waste the human race has ever invented.
Why do you say that?
Well, because they don't teach you anything. All you do is you waste time. 2-3 hours, you're sitting there like a moron. There's an entire generation of kids who are all goggle-eyed. They don't teach you anything except how to blow things up. So I've been putting it down. So now they come to me and they say, we want you to do a CD-ROM game. I said, nah. And then I quoted from Oscar Wilde and said, I can resist anything but temptation. And I figured as long as I'm putting it down, let me see if I can do a better one. Mm-hmm. So, using my little manual typewriter and a couple of game designers, I designed this game. I have no mouth and I must scream.
But do you know how to put it into a machine?
No! I tell you, turn the computer on, man! It's wonderful. The best part of all is reading the reviews. The reviews are going buggy. There's 40,000 units they've moved in 2 weeks.
Wow.
40,000 of these things. And Newsweek says it's a bold step forward. And CD-ROM Game Player and all these magazines, they say, a brilliant, you know, and then they find out that I have a manual typewriter, and they say, how did this Luddite do this? And I said, because I'm smarter than you are, that's why.
So nothing's blowing up?
No. No, this is an ethical game. This is taken from my short story, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream.
Yeah.
And it's after the war. After the big war, where each of the 3 master powers have sunk their giant computers into the center of the earth. The computers have linked up, become sentient, and programmed the war to destroy the entire human race. And the machine has brought the last 5 people alive on Earth down into the center of the earth to torment them eternally. Mm. And you lead the adventures of these 5 people as they try to, in some way, retain their dignity. And you can't really win the game, but you will learn much about ethics and courage and friendship. And it's a pretty disturbing game, people are telling me.
That's pretty good. People are telling you because you have no idea, because you don't know how to play it.
I can't play it.
Yeah.
Now, I got to ask you. Me, everybody knows about me, but I watch the show and I look at you and I say, you know, who is this dude? Where does he come from? What does he do?
Well,
what's your favorite movie?
We'll delve into that at some other time. You know who my favorite person is? I'll tell you something about me.
What?
Back when I went into high school, it was a college prep school, we had to write down who our 3 heroes were. Right. Martin Luther King.
Good.
Thomas Jefferson.
That's a good one.
Boom. And Jonathan Winters.
No.
Yeah. And my mom goes, you should change that last one. The Jesuits will freak when they see that.
What?
No.
Why Johnny?
Oh, he's just the best. I mean, because he would go into a place like this and just start picking up props and stuff and do a whole bit that would have me on the floor.
Did you want to be a comedian?
No, I would never have the nerve to do stand-up or anything like that.
What do you think you're doing here?
No, I'm sitting down. But we're supposed to be talking about the future here.
Okay, we're going to talk about
the first few days of '96. Do a little Gene Dixon on me here. I'm not even sure what that means.
Okay. Jack Nicholson will have an illegitimate child by Brad Pitt.
Whoa!
How's that? I mean, you heard it here first. I say I got only a few predictions that I can say, because the prediction game is really, you know, That's silly. Nobody can see beyond the veil. But I will tell you this: the company called Pixar, which is the animation company that did Toy Story, is going to become one of the most important stocks on the big board. It opened the other day. It was supposed to come out at 12 or 14. It came out at 22. By the end of the day, it was at 49. All the heavy hitters dumped. Yeah. And now people are coming in on it over the counter.
Got money in there?
I couldn't get in. You couldn't get a share. They give it to people they call it guys who have size.
Give me another one.
Another one, the Marvel Comics will probably not be around as we know it in 3 years. Marvel has already leased 4 of its major characters to Image Comics. They've never leased them for production. I mean, they've done crossovers, but they are now actually leasing their characters to Image to do the production. That's because Ron Perlman, the great green male raider of Wall Street, who got into Marvel a number of years ago, and I told everybody, I said, this is not a good thing. Trust me, I'm telling you, this is not a good. This guy will wreck everything. He has just eaten the comic book market. He bought Heroes World, the distributor. Everybody ran for distributors, and they've broken it up so much that retail stores are closing left and right. Middle Earth in New Jersey, which is one of the big ones, just closed down. It's going to get worse. In 5 or 6 years, the 2 biggest players at the moment, DC and Marvel, will probably not be around as we know them today.
Wow. Who's going to win the Super Bowl?
The Super Bowl.
It's a football
well,
game.
it ain't going to be the Saints, unfortunately. I root for the poor Devils every year.
The Aints.
Well, it's a shame because they're so nifty. I mean, they got such beautiful uniforms. What we're going to discover in the next couple of years is that somebody's going to suddenly wake up as from a miasma and say, wait a minute, Brad Pitt can't act.
You see 12 Monkeys yet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Well, I rest my case.
Tragic. Poor thing is.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Are you satisfied with the feature that we've done?
Yeah. Yeah, I love working this channel, although I won't pronounce the name of it. I do really like it, and every time I run into you, everybody says, God, why are you and Jarek such enemies? And I say, because I'm Jew and he's a goy. I mean, you know, it's automatic.
That's the way it works.
Back in the 30s and 40s, probably the most popular writer was a man named Clarence Buddington Kelland. How many of you out there know? Okay, well, I see your hand, and the rest of you are all looking perplexed. Clarence Buddington Kelland did books. Movies were based on his stories. There wasn't practically an issue of the Saturday Evening Post or Collier's at the time that didn't have a story by Clarence Buddington Kelland in it. Today, you can't find a book by Clarence Buddington Kelland in a library. If I were to go out in the street and ask 200 people, not one of them would remember the name Clarence Buddington Kelland. So here am I, a writer, 61 years old. I've been writing for 40 years. I've won a lot of awards. You know, I'm on television, and I come and shoot off my mouth for you, you know, on this show. And I wonder, will anybody remember that I was here? 10 minutes after I'm down the hole, is anybody going to still be reading? Well, we live in a time in which cultural illiteracy is at its peak. And people aren't reading anymore. They're watching this tube. They're doing some movies. They're spending endless hours playing video games and getting their brains fried by what they call the infobahn, which is one of the great hypes of the world. There's no such thing there. And books. Books are being read, but, you know, they're paying 6 figures to Faye Resnick to talk about her relationship to Nicole Simpson. And it brings a writer to wonder, is there really any future? Is there any point to it? I don't know the answer. All I can do is give you anecdotes. I'll give you a real interesting anecdote. I got a publisher who's bringing out 31 of my books next year, early next year. And I'm having dinner with them in Chicago. I was at the American Bookseller Association convention. And we went out to have dinner. And in the middle of the dinner, I'm talking about a cover idea that I had for my comic book, Harlan Ellison's Dream Corridor. And I said, this is great idea. You got a guy who's climbing Mount Everest, or, you know, climbing back towards Shangri-La, and the wind is whipping the snow in a curtain off to the left, and it's like Ronald Colman climbing back to Shangri-La, and as he looks toward the summit, he sees McDonald's arches. Now, I thought that was very funny, and in fact, here's a Xerox of the cover that Kent Bash actually did. But I suddenly realized, as I was talking to them, they were looking at me as if I'd fallen off the moon. I said, Ronald Colman. You know, Lost Horizon, the movie? Black and white movie? Hello? Hello? Ellison to Earth. They didn't know. They didn't know anything about Lost Horizon. They didn't know Ronald Colman. They didn't know Shangri-La. It's impossible, almost impossible, to write anything that an audience today knows anything about if the audience is under 20. They just don't give a damn. They don't know and they don't care. And it turns into a kind of situation where even the most famous stuff becomes no price. Let me show you something really ugly. Publishers Weekly. This is the journal of the book publishing world. Comes out every week. This one is June 5th. See that cover? It says Lassie Come Home. Lassie Come Home, the book Lassie Come Home. And underneath it are these two names, Rosemary Wells and Susan Jeffers. And I look at this and I say, the hell is that? The book was written by Eric Knight, who wrote The Flying Yorkshireman. Eric Knight, very famous. This is one of the most famous books in the world. It was written in 1938, something like that. 1938. Well, what they've done is they're not reprinting Lassie Come Home. They're doing a picture book. A picture book. They took Eric Hatch's work and they have to boil it down and make it idiot for a new audience. Clarence Buddington Kellen, for all his fame, is gone. As if he never existed, flins from the mind of the reading public. They don't even remember Chaucer. We're lucky if they remember Mark Twain. If Clarence Buddington Kellen couldn't make it, how the hell am I going to make it? Hello, kiddies. This is Uncle Harlan here again to talk to you about the time that never was and never will be. Once upon a time, in the land of Scifi, if you like fantasy, you'll love Scifi, people used to win Hugos and Nebulas through dint of hard labor and the quality of their work. Now, for those of you who do not know what a Hugo and a Nebula are, these are called Hugos, these large rectal suppository-looking items. They are the award of the World Science Fiction Convention, the Hugo Award. These beautiful lucite and whatever the hell they are, crystals, are called the nebulas. They are given out by the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers of America. What you're looking at here, all of these 8.5 Hugos and these 3 nebulas are mine. I've won these. Many people over the years have bruited the rumor in Chinese whispers that one could buy a Hugo, that it was possible to affect the electorate in such a way that you could in fact lobby to get an award. In fact, the charge was lobbied against me once until the fellow who made the charge was shown that he and I had never been up in the same category for the award, so I could not possibly have put him out of the award as he was suggesting. But attempts were made over the years. At one time, the Scientologists tried to get something for L. Ron Hubbard. Didn't work. One time, the Burroughs Bibliophiles tried to get one for a posthumously published Edgar Rice Burroughs novel. Didn't work. There have been times when cyberpunk people have tried to do it. It just doesn't work. Now, the electorate is not awfully large. The people who vote on the nebulas are, of course, members of the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers of America, and the people who vote on the Hugos are the people who were registered for last year's World Science Fiction Convention and next year's World Science Fiction Convention. But this most recent convention, at which the most recent awards were given out, something strange, wonderful, and horrendous happened. People bought themselves some awards. Yes, folks, it's finally happened. Technology has finally caught up. People actually went on the internet and begged for votes. Now, I'm not going to mention their names, because first of all, people will say, oh, Ellison's sour grapes. Yeah, it is sour grapes. I suppose I got out of 1 or 2 of the awards. I'll tell you that absolutely frankly, but that's not really what I'm caring about. What I'm caring about is that one vastly untalented person won a Hugo, or was it a Nebula? I think it was a Nebula. And another person went out on the net and begged for votes, said, vote for me, vote for me, vote for me. Well, I guess the time has come for somebody to point this out. It's not really polite to talk about it, but then you know me. I have no sense of what I should talk about and what I shouldn't. So I figured I would alert the rest of you to this, that beginning with the awards this year, the Hugos and the Nebulas are maybe not as valuable, maybe not as representative as we might like to think they are. On the other hand, maybe it's all right to go out and ask for votes. Maybe I'll do it this coming year. I got some real good stories coming up. We shall see. But I just thought I'd let you know. I'd like to serve as your ombudsman. Now, I want you to understand something. This is not a top 10 list. I hate those stupid top 10 lists. I really do. Letterman and his top 10 lists are just so banal. But it turns out I got 10. I don't know why I got 10, but I got 10. And what these are the stupidest things in movies that they keep doing over and over again. And they just rank me. I just get crazed when I see them. And they're probably going to seem inconsequential to you, but they're the same kind of small, inconsequentials that every time you see one of yours in a movie, you want to jump up and tear the throat out of the stupid director or the script writer who didn't understand it. The first one is the mispronunciation of the word Neanderthal. The word, folks, is not Neanderthal at all. It's Neanderthal. You take a movie like Iceman, great science fiction movie, and here are these anthropologists who have discovered a primitive man frozen in the ice, and these are scientists. These are people who work in anthropology, and they pull them out and they keep pronouncing it Neanderthal. No, that's wrong. That's the first one. The second one is the phrase, I could care less. No, you moron. I could care less means you could care more. There's a reason the phrase is, I couldn't care less. That is the outer extreme of your caring. You could not care any more than that. To reverse it may sound clever to somebody, but it is boneheaded. And I urge you, next time you see it in a movie, hoot and holler and scream. This one is my wife's favorite. The guy calls at 3 o'clock in the morning. The private detective is wakened up. He picks up the telephone. The guy says, I have the information you want. I can tell you who the murderer is. Well, tell me. No, not now, not over the phone. Meet me in the warehouse at 4:15. Now, if the private detective had the brains of a centipede, he would say, no way, Jack, I'm in bed. I'm down for the night. I'm not getting up and getting all dressed and going out in the rain to go to some stupid warehouse at 4:15 in the morning, because when I get there, you'll be dead. Let me tell you something. Anybody can talk on a telephone at any time. When they do that, you must understand that it is a bad director, bad producer, bad writer's idea of how to build suspense. Instead of just doing the conversation, they always make you go somewhere else where you know the informant will be found dead. Okay, that's that one. Now, let me see. Oh, yes, I love this one. The name is not of Robert Louis Stevenson's villain is not Dr. Jekyll. It's Dr. Jekyll. Jekyll. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Or Mr. Jekyll and Dr. Hyde. Whatever you want. But it's not Jekyll. It's Jekyll. Now, let's see. What else have I got here? Oh, I love this one. Guy says to him, you're going to walk away from me just like that? And the other one goes, just like that. If I hear just like that one more time, I will put my fingers in the nose of the speaker and yank it off his face, okay? The next one is leaving the lights on. Now, explain this to me. Explain what director thought this was clever. The car pulls up into the camera, right into the head of the shot, late at night, and the lights are on. The guy gets out of the car, leaves the lights on, and discovers the body, goes into a house, does whatever he's going to do, leaves the lights on. No, you leave the lights on, your battery runs down. And when you have to escape from the blob monster, you ain't going to be able to start your car. Therefore, you don't leave the lights on. An adjunct to this is, and I just saw this the other night on a new cop show called High Incidents. David Keith pulls up in front of his house in Los Angeles. The window is open. He's got his arm sticking out of the window when he pulls up, leaves the door unlocked, leaves the window down, and goes in his house, picks up his kid and goes in the house. Apparently, he's in for the night. Now, I don't know where you live. Maybe in Keokuk or maybe East Weewa, Wisconsin, you can leave your car open out on the street all night. But in Los Angeles, you do that. What you're going to find in the morning is an empty driveway. This is just stupid filmmaking. What else have I got here? Oh, yeah, the one of somebody's in the shower, and the shower is running, and somebody talks to him from the next room, and they answer him like they can hear him. Try it, folks. You cannot hear anything. When you're in the shower, you can't hear what someone is saying. Maybe you can hear a voice, but you cannot make out what they are saying. The last one for you, and this is a beauty because most of you do it too. It is wrong to say, have your cake and eat it too. No, that's real easy. Here is my cake. I have it. I have eaten it too. What you cannot do is eat your cake and have it too. Would you get it right? Would you get it right? Thank you. Thank you for your kind attention. You know, every week I come out here. Sometimes I wear clothing, sometimes I don't. And I usually have something to kvetch about. I have something to argue about or something to yell about. And everybody gets nasty with me and they get cranky with me. They say, oh, what a curmudgeon. But, you know, sometimes I just feel good. And I don't really want to bash anybody. I don't want to diss anybody. I don't want to, like, you know, pretend to be Bob Dole holding onto his pen. I want to be a nice guy, but I can't. Because the world is so filled with doofuses and gazoonies that it's very difficult. Let me give you, for instance, every year At every convention where they give an award, whether it's the HWA, the Horror Writers Association a banquet, where they give out the Usher houses, which we call the Bram Stoker Awards, or it's the World Science Fiction Convention where they give out the Oscar of the SF world, which is called the Hugo, or SFFWA, where they give out the Nebula Awards, they all maintain secrecy. World Fantasy Convention maintains secrecy. You cannot find out who won any of the categories. And that means that often there's nobody there to accept the awards. For instance, look, see back here? See right behind me there? That is a painting by Jacek Jurka. I did this book, Mindfields, with the paintings of Jacek Jurka. Jacek Jurka lives in Poland, and he won the World Fantasy Award for the most outstanding artist. Did they tell anyone? No! So Jacek was not there, nor was his publisher, Jim Cowan of Morpheus, nor was anyone else there who could accept this and say a few words on his behalf. No one bothered to get in touch with Jacek and say, hey, you've won. The man's in, you get it, Poland. We're talking here, Poland. Nobody bothered to tell him. They play this stuff with such incredible, vainglorious hubris, like these itty-bitty, pishy little awards were the Oscars. Like somebody really gives a hoot, like someone is going to be very upset if the winners are revealed ahead of time. Please, folks, this is all ego. It is silliness. It's the maintaining of a secrecy, which is idiocy. If the people have won, let them know. Let them attend if they want to, so they can be there to pick up the award. People say, well, if we see them in the audience, we'll know they won. So what? So what if you know they won? What's the big damn deal? And this goes on and on. Every year, this ridiculous amateurism in which people who give out awards think that their awards are the end-all and the be-all, that you must climb the northern face of Annapurna to get the damn award. No, all you have to do is go someplace like Eugene, Oregon, or to New Orleans and be there, which would be very nice for the people who've paid all that money and gone to the convention and have gone to this big banquet and paid all the money to see the awards won. So please, would you mind? Knock off this secret ballot crap, you know. I mean, once they've won, they've won. Send out the word. Let them know. Tell them, look, keep it to yourself. If we'd like, we'd like to be a surprise. That's fine. But tell the people so they can get their awards. Huh? Now, you see, I didn't want to have to get mean with you. I don't want to say anything bad to you. But you people just won't leave me alone. You won't act like adults. What am I to do? I catch an enormous amount of crap from time to time because I haven't finished editing the last Dangerous Visions volume. People say, when are you going to do it? And I say, well, my response is the same as Michelangelo to the Pope. You'll get it when it's done. But when I edited the Dangerous Visions anthologies, or when I did Medea, or did any of the other work that I've done as an editor, I understood that I was not just going out there and willy-nilly, randomly buying stories to throw into an anthology which might make a few bucks, and then that was the end of it. I understood that if a writer gave me a story, I was in caretakership for that work. That I was the janitor of that building, that I had to protect the writers. So the contracts, all of my contracts, have a clause in them that's a deal breaker that says you will send copies of all the foreign editions, of every reprint edition, of everything else, to the writers. And I provide them with a list of everybody in the book with an updated address so they don't have a problem. Now, publishers find this very annoying. A lot of them won't sign contracts with me because that's too much trouble. It's too much trouble. It's too much trouble to provide to the people who wrote the damn stories a copy of the books? Well, they don't. You talk to any number of writers in this field. I don't care whether it's somebody at the top like Paul Anderson or somebody, who's only been writing for a few years like Adam Troy Castro or Esther Friesner or something like that. They've written, they've been going around for a number of years, but they're not long timers. And they'll all tell you they don't have editions of their books printed in Spain or Germany or Japan because it's just too damn much trouble. It's too much trouble for the publishers to get them. Well, it's a deal breaker on my contracts. I make sure that everybody who was ever in Dangerous Visions, or again Dangerous Visions, or will be in the last Dangerous Visions, when and if, not if, when, get that book. And this is a sense of responsibility that I've found in almost none of the anthologists around. I'm not going to name their names because most of them are very decent people. They don't cheat you, they don't lie to you, but they just don't follow up. They take the story, they publish it, they pay you a fee, and that's it. You don't get the book club editions, you don't get the reprint editions, and so you have no way of knowing where your books have been reprinted, You have no way of knowing how much money you should have. You have no way of knowing whether you're getting your proper royalties or not. There are no little flags for you. Well, most writers don't run their businesses very well. Writing, folks, freelance writing, is a cottage industry. My wife and I, we are a mom and pop shop. We keep very close control. My contracts tell me exactly where the books are going to be published. And when they do a foreign edition, they have to come back to me and advise me. I don't charge them extra money, or maybe $100, something like that. But I know there's going to be a Japanese edition. I know there's going to be an edition in Finland. I watch out for that. But do the writers in this industry pay any attention to that? No. They take a very short-term look. They don't keep their offices in good shape. They don't keep their papers in good shape. They don't worry about whether the magazines have been properly copyrighted. Their stories could be in the public domain. They wouldn't know any better. Well, I figured I would mention it to you because it's an ongoing problem. I'm speaking now to anthologists. There are dozens and dozens and dozens of you out there. Every jumped-up amateur who ever went to a science fiction convention thinks he or she can be an anthologist. Well, live in that fool's paradise if you will. I know you will snooker a lot of writers into sending you stories. But if you do, then you must understand that you're in caretakership. You have to do a certain number of things to keep that work viable, meaning life-supporting, meaning bringing in money for the writers. And writers, if you don't hold their feet to the fire, you're as big stummies as I think you are. You know, I get faxes all the time, and they're never signed. Bothers me. Really bothers me. I know it's part of the electronic age, and people say, well, we send them over our personal computer. Well, that's an explanation, but it's not an excuse. I get a letter from someone, and it says sincerely, and there's a blank space, and then their name is typed. I get very annoyed. I just automatically get annoyed. I don't know why. I love using fountain pens. As you can see, I've got a lot of them. I keep them in a wonderful box that I got here. It's got a tambour door, and it opens like this, and the drawer pulls out. I use real ink. These are all beautiful fountain pens. This one is a Recife. This one is called the Victory. One of the things that I talk about all the time on a Sci-Fi Channel is that you should operate at the level of technology that best serves the job you're going to do. If you work best with a PC, that's fine. Then use it. If you work best with a typewriter, do it. If you work best writing creatively with a fountain pen in your hand, writing on a piece of paper, then do it. And I got to tell you, folks, a letter is still a letter if it's written by hand. Even if you got the worst handwriting in the world, and mine is not terrific. Nonetheless, when you get a signed letter, you know that there was a human being behind it, not some cold thing that you got off a PC. I got the reason I'm doing this here, sitting at the table with the pen, because I've got some stuff to clear up. But I got a call from the editor of Sci-Fi Universe magazine. He said we got a hit about you and from someone named Crazy Mama. And I said, oh, that's wonderful. He says, yeah, it's not really nice that America Online makes everybody use a pseudonym because it encourages bad behavior. They can hide behind the pseudonym. And this woman, some doctor somewhere or other, wrote a really snotty kind of thing. And I don't respond to these things usually. I have no, since I don't have a computer or a modem, I can't respond. But I decided this time I would. So I handed her head. Real mean, long. I took great joy in writing it. And I wrote it because it was a human being responding to a cold, I'm a coward hiding out behind the internet kind of message. And I show you myself sitting with a fountain pen because it keeps you in touch with your hands, with your life. It's like using a watch with real hands on it instead of a digital. These things are things that make you understand that the electronic age still needs to be unplugged every once in a while.
I've heard of you before. You're Holmes the meddler, Holmes the busybody, Holmes the Scotland Yard Jack in office.
Your conversation really is most entertaining. If you would...
Sadly, at long last, the world's most famous consulting detective, Sherlock Holmes, is gone. Jeremy Brett died. Died in London, September 12th, 1995, of a heart attack. In 41 episodes on Granada television, Sherlock Holmes was brought more vibrantly alive than ever before. You will be able to lead a better life if you follow the process of deductive logic that Holmes mastered, where you observe and can draw intelligent conclusions.
Farintosh, oh yes, I do remember the case. It concerned an opal tiara. I think it was before your time, was.
MPI, whose number we will flash on the screen so that you can order these when you want, have brought out all 41 of them. They're all in uniform editions now. They run 50 minutes each, no commercials, the same way they were on PBS, except there'll be no breaks for pledge donations. Sherlock Holmes as Jeremy Brett. Jeremy Brett as Sherlock Holmes in real life may be gone. But as Sherlock Holmes will live forever, in this way, so Jeremy Brett, having played his greatest role, also will live forever.
The law is what we live with, Inspector. Justice is sometimes harder to achieve.
I'm sitting in my car. My car is a 1947 Packard. I got a current car. I drive that one, but I love the Packard. I love the Packard because it was built to run, built to last. You could hit this car with 200 small Japanese cars and they would be demolished into ashes. When I go past a grade school, little kids have no idea what this car is. They have no idea it was made in 1947. They don't even know there was a year called 1947, but they see this car go by and they give me that. And that means they recognize something that is forever, like the pyramids. Now, I want to talk to you about a couple of things that I think are important for you to try and remember, things that you can help preserve the past with. And I do this so that you will not be ignorant, and you will not be stupid, and you will not be uneducated. Now, the first is the idea of the great bookstores. Almost all the independent bookstores are being driven out of business by these huge megalithic bookstores, the Borders and the Walden Books and the Barnes and Nobles, 565 million square feet, push out the mom and pop stores. When they do that, it means that they cut out all of the potential for finding books that you can't get at those big bookstores. Yeah, you can find Danielle Steele, you can find Stephen King, you can find Tom Clancy, but you're not going to be able to find Gerald Kirsch. You're not going to be able to find Zoe Oldenburg. You're not going to be able to find Cecilia Holland. What you've got to do is remember that, yeah, you're going to be able to save a few bucks if you go to one of the big bookstores, but you're driving the mom and pop stores out of business. The same for Blockbuster. Those hideous blue and yellow, what are they, blue and yellow stores that crop up like a giant pimple on the landscape. When they drive the little neighborhood video stores out of business, it means you're not going to be able to get all the underground films that you should be seeing, all of the small films. Hell, they don't even carry NC-17 films. So I'm talking to you about not necessarily patronizing the big stores. Now, if you recall, a couple of commentaries ago, I talked to you about the golden age of comics. This is a set of cards that Comic Images was going to be bringing out. Well, they brought them out. This is just a little sample of them. And each one of them is a cover of an old comic book with wonderful commentary on the back by Ron Goulart, the great historian of comic books. And this is a way to preserve the past. This is a way, in modern terms, to save that which is good from before. Now, I was talking to you about bookstores. Here's a book that will never be sold in a Barnes & Noble. This is one of the Charnel House books. You see this? This is denim. He did the books in denim. And who is he? He is Joe Stefko. Joe Stefko is, even to this day, the drummer for the Turtles, the rock group the Turtles. But Joe, in his spare time, he's a publisher. He does Charnel House books. He only does maybe one book a year, but he produces them with such incredible loving care. And these are wonderful, beautiful books that are built to last, just like this car. Joe has got two books left that you really ought to get. One of them is a Dean Koontz book called Beast Child. And Beast Child sells for 150 bucks. There's only 750 copies of them. There's only a few left. And it's got an introduction by Dean, and it's exquisitely printed on Mohawk vellum, end sheets of Fabriano Ingres, slip-cased in iris cloth. It's 150 bucks. Now, not all of you can afford it. He brought it out in 1992. There's a few left. And the other one is the new Tim Powers book, Where They Are Hid, which is a wonderful little original, never-before printed story by Tim Powers. For the most part, you got to know that these things existed. You got to know that they happened. Because if you think the world is nothing but fast food and the kind of stuff that you see on the newsstands now, you should be told that there was a lot that went before. And as Santana said, those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it. You know, Dick Crew, who is the producer of this show, occasionally Dick will say to me, why don't you do a segment on something, such and such? Not often, but sometimes. And he said to me, why don't you do one on your heart attack? I said, it's old news, and plenty of people out there watching who probably have had the same thing. And then I thought about it a little bit, and I thought maybe this much of it might be of interest to you. As a writer, and that's how I make my living, is dreaming up stuff, all my life I've written about mortality. Every story I've written, and in virtually every science fiction story you read, there'll be a protagonist and there's a discussion in some way or other, rather either obliquely or profoundly or obviously, there will be a discussion of mortality and what that means. And we write about it very glibly. Well, I got to tell you, when I had the heart attack in April of '96, and they took me into the ER, and the following, it was April 12th, I guess, or April 10th was when they took me in, and April 12th is when they cracked me open. I mean, they cracked me open like a walnut. And I didn't know at the time. If I had known what the procedure was, I probably would have plotzed. They actually open you up, and they take your heart out, and they lay it on this side, and they take your lungs out, and they lay them on that side, and they work on you outside your body. It's like getting your car repaired. I keep thinking, invariably, when I get my car fixed, you know, there's always a piece left over in there. You say, well, shouldn't that be in there? And the guy says, oh, no, that's the thermostat. You don't need that. They just put that in because Ramadoula. And then he throws it in the garbage can. I'm thinking, you know, did they do that to me too when I was lying on the table? Was there something left over? And they just kind of say, oh, no, he doesn't need that. It's just a liver. Throw it away. I suddenly found myself standing in the doorway looking at the other side, looking at death. And there's nothing. I mean, there's nothing there. I'm being a practicing atheist. I don't think there's anything on the other side. But I finally looked at death, and I got to tell you, it scared the crap out of me. Really scared me. All the braggadocio that I had written about, that writers do write about, that people talk about, particularly young people. Well, live fast, die young, and have a good-looking corpse. Which most people don't know where that comes from. It comes from a Willard Motley novel called Knock on Any Door. It's bull. It's crap. It's silliness. If you were 101 years old, lying on the table about to croak, all you would think is, let me make it to 102. And if you were 102, you'd say, let me just have it till 103. When the time comes to cash in, even those of us who are real smart Alex and who think we're very tough, you kind of run screaming from it. I tell you all this, not for any particular reason, except I'm sure there's somebody out there watching right now token on something really unpleasant and bad that's going to kill you, or eating a toad burger, or, you know, frying up your arteries with some crap. And I just thought I would mention it just on the off chance that maybe I might help you save your life. I don't know. Maybe Dick was wrong. Maybe I shouldn't have done it. I don't know. Go away. Go away. Let me direct your attention to this here. It's a little banged up. It is a newspaper clipping, and it's dated February 16th, 1952. And it is photographs of the people who founded the Cleveland Science Fiction Society in 1951-52. And if you'll notice on here on the right is a pencil neck geek reading astounding science fiction. That pencil neck geek is myself at age 17. Now, the guy who did this article, Jack Warfel, came to the clubhouse and in Cleveland when I was just in high school, and he did this piece on science fiction. The article is called "They're All Ready to Visit the Man in the Moon." And it says, at least 30 Clevelanders are ready to leave for the moon. Departure date sometime within the next 5 or 10 years, according to Harlan Ellison. He established the deadline following a bi-weekly evening meeting of the space-headed club members at 10217 St. Clair Avenue. Not all the members, including industrial engineers, school teachers, housewives, physicians, and college students, are essentially moon-minded. Moon-minded. You like that? Some have their sights set on Mars. This is 1952. People talk about Mars. They must be crazy, right? Others are more enthusiastic about a quick trip to Venus or a more extended fling through the Milky Way and outer space. Conversation with us a jog trot as I enter the place, blah, 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 and he gets it all the titles wrong. He doesn't know the difference between articles and stories. And then he comes down, he says, Stephen Schulteis of Warren, Ohio, new club president, introduced me to several members, and I waded into the lunar swim. There's nothing but hyperbole and disingenuousness in all of this. The heading is Flights of Fantasy, it says. Quote, interplanetary flights are in the immediate future unless there's a drastic change in world views, declared Ellison, 17, of East High School. The flights will surely be government-sponsored. Now, let me stop for a moment. This is 1952, and I said we'd have space travel within the next 5 to 10 years, right? 5 years later, on the button, October 4th, 1957, Russia sent up Sputnik, the first successful launch of the first artificial Earth satellite. 5 years to the dot. And 12 years later, only 12 years later, we were walking on the moon. Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, the Apollo Saturn 11, July 20th, 1969. We were right on. But here was this mook, this pinhead, this imbecile, doing this routine, making people who were reading science fiction look like jerks because he didn't know anything, because he was stupid, because he didn't have any information. It goes on and on and on and on like this. I want to tell you about this guy. This guy was such a jerkazoid that 5 years later, when Sputnik went up, I came back from where I was. I think I was on leave from the Army, and I came back to find this yutz so that I could point out to him, show him the article, which I still had, and show it to him and say, how does this make you feel, you pinhead? But unfortunately, he escaped my wrath because he died. My wrath, however, is in full flight and full measure now, because the Sci-Fi Channel has been showing a 1-hour documentary, and I use the word documentary really loosely in this case, about the World Science Fiction Convention that was held in Anaheim over Labor Day, 1996. And it is a terrible piece of work. It's a terrible piece of work because it does the same thing that these documentaries always do. The host is a guy named Sean Dunlin. I don't know whether I'm pronouncing it right or not. Sean Dunlin is an Adam Sandler wannabe. I mean, this is a guy who acts as if he's got tapioca pudding for brains. He runs around holding up a piece of cloth or you know, a wig, a fake wig, screaming at Shatner's wig, and they think this is clever. Now, I talked to the people who produced this show. It was done by Triage Entertainment. They're very nice people, and they worked hard at this. I don't blame them. They were given the assignment 3-4 days before they had to shoot it. They had to shoot an hour documentary. They didn't know who to talk to. They did not have an advisor. This show is an outsider's idea of primitive science fiction, the kind of crap that was being done by this reporter in 1952. Everyone knows about SF now. Why in the world, if you're going to be going to a science fiction, do you have conversations with Roger Corman about life on Mars? First of all, the life on Mars thing is just, you know, primitive bacteria billions of years ago. There is no life on Mars. But here's Roger Corman saying, well, when I heard this, what I want to do is make a movie about life on Mars. Ha, ha, ha. And he's making one called Mars Lives. This is crap. This is the kind of adolescent, childish stuff that should not be done. Now, nobody minds. Nobody minds if it's 60-40 entertainment as opposed to content. There's ways of doing the content stuff so that it's not boring, so that it's not dull. There are impassioned people out there. Instead of using that herky-jerky, 5-second intercut pseudo-MTV chaotic style, they should have done some serious filming. Make it look serious, but they didn't. Nobody had the scene in which A.E. Van Vogt, old A.E. Van Vogt, got his award, a great and touching moment when an entire auditorium of people stood up and applauded him. They didn't cover the wonderful conversation between Joe Straczynski and Ross Pavlett on is there God? Is there an existence of God? It's all over the net now. People are downloading it so they can exchange copies of it. None of that was covered. And when I talked to Triage, they said, well, we did the best we could. We wanted to give a rounded feeling. You don't give a rounded feeling by doing the origami panel and not doing the Hugos. There were just little snippets of the Hugos and very little of the retro Hugos. It was not, in fact, a proper kind of representation of the most important science fiction event of the year. What you have got to do is start treating the medium seriously, as it is treated by most everybody in the world. Everybody knows science fiction. You don't have to do these primary level kind of things anymore. This is a disgraceful show, this Worldcon show. Everybody I know was furious about it, just off about it. And they started calling me, what are you going to say about it? And I watched it, and I'm on it myself. And I look like a jerk just like everybody else. And I said, I'll say something about it. Well, now I've said something about it. I don't know what's going to happen. I have no idea whether the Sci-Fi Channel will get its act together at long last after all these years or not. But I said what I had to say. Thank you for listening.